I think society now is becoming much more complex than it feels much more complex from when I was a child. When I was a child going out with my friends, there was a lot more trust. From about the age of 5, 6 years old, I would just go out with my friends for hours. I think nowadays society feels less safe. I think it's much more complicated in how we interact as people, how we socialise. It's now much less personal. I feel like we as a people have lost some of the art of having a conversation, being able to interact with people face to face, whereas we are quite confident in interacting with each other through social media, through phones. I think society today is, the priority is to take, it seems like everybody is aspiring to take and to fill their baskets with as much as possible. There is very little desire to actually just give. Even when people think they are giving, typically it's more trading. They are giving to receive something back. Not very often do people just wish to give something. I think people will also choose when they do and do not give. So they may give to somebody they are very close to, they may give to a family member, but if they found somebody on the street who is probably in more need of receiving a gift, whether that be time, love, care, money, support, they are sometimes less inclined to give it because they are less familiar with them. I think everybody, typically everybody, if you really, even people who do not seem to want to give love and to be happy and to make other people happy, I think if you really drill down into them, that there is a desire, an inner desire to spread happiness to other people. I think it's a very natural human thing to do, to have a relationship with somebody whereby that relationship is at peace. But I think people do not necessarily know how to apply it. And then if it takes a bit of thought and if it takes a bit of coordination, it becomes almost too much work. And so people will naturally then default to an easier thing, which is to just take, just to live about a life which does not focus on what can I do with my spare time, how can I enrich my time, how can I spend my time enriching somebody else's life. It's actually just easier for me to get up, go to work, come home, TV on, sit back, go to bed. I think it's people don't choose to live like it. I think they are almost ignorant to it. Not in a negative way. I don't think it's a reason to judge people. It's more like they are asleep. They have not woken up to it. And I think the more you can maybe open people's eyes to how much more in life there is other than what they currently do, they will naturally go that way. They will naturally choose to give more. They will naturally choose to love more. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to make someone else's life as wonderful as possible? It's demonstrating to people that this is a way of life. I work closely with a young man currently who has had some turmoil in his life. He's quite young, about 18 years old, and had some turmoil in his life. He had some mental health conditions, and as such he could be deemed as what you see as unhappy, depressed, having some psychosis and that sort of thing. But just by spending time with him, literally an hour with him, to talk and to just treat him with respect and to just try and emphasise to him that if your thoughts are taking you somewhere negative, just one tiny change and your thoughts can take you somewhere very positive. I've met with the guy probably for about 6-7 hours so far, and straight away he's already showing some signs of, after 18 years of being very depressed, very negative, already showing signs of almost there is a silver lining, there is positive in everything if you look for it. And that is not a case of that's not any special techniques, that's just simply a case of showing him to be positive, showing him, look, I will not be dragged into negative, you do not need to be dragged into negative either. I think it's infectious. I think it is much more infectious positivity than it is negativity. I think it will so much easily inspire people. If you're in a room with people who are not positive or negative, but they're all relatively neutral, and if somebody walked into the room who's very negative, that person will probably not be accepted. But if you walk into a room and you are very positive, you will most likely be accepted, and you will, not only that, you will then start to inspire other people to be positive. Your smile will cause others to smile, your laughter will cause others to laugh. And if you can go in a room for 1 hour and walk away and 5 other people are now happier, and they will walk away and make 5 other people happier, and so forth and so forth, that to me is almost our responsibility as humans. It is simple, but it's just a case, I think, of people opening their eyes to it and applying themselves. But certainly in the UK, if I was to open conversation with other men and say, right guys, let's work towards happiness, I would get laughed at. It would not be an acceptable conversation, acceptable dialogue to have with people. It would almost be deemed as strange. And that to me is quite sad, in that we live in a time whereby society accepting what we feel is right becomes almost more powerful than what we feel is right. There will be times, and it happens to myself as well, whereby I want to have a conversation with somebody to say, think about this, it could be completely different, and this conversation could potentially cause your life to go in a completely different direction. But I may hold back on that conversation through fear of maybe being judged, through maybe, will this person really receive this conversation? No, probably not, I won't have it. That to me is somewhat a bit sad. You should be much more able to be open. Up until today we were strangers, but the one thing we have in common is that we all are capable of having this type of conversation, taking something from it and then going off in our own separate ways tonight, and maybe using this conversation to change your life and others around you. We all want the same thing, and that's typically, people want peace, people want happiness, people want to feel love, give love, receive it. People want to just raise their children safely, and I think there are very much commonalities between cultures